Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We still got lots of work to do to get this quarter skin all fit and tacked onto the duster. Let's get after it. All right, first up is this section right here. We want to extend this piece basically over here like this and down like that. This piece over here will get trimmed off eventually to line up and make it look like this is all one piece. It's a pretty straightforward piece of steel I got to cut here. This will just get filled in with a bit of weld, no big deal there. So we just need a straight piece with a bend in it to match this bend. I'm not even going to make a paper template. We're looking at 1.5 inches, probably the same down here. Yeah, 1.5 inches, and I don't know, what is that going to be, 5 inches? Yeah, let's see here. We'll make it a bit bigger, and we'll trim both this side and the top side. So we'll make it 6. We'll put a bend in it in roughly the right location, and then we'll do our cut to fit to get this line and that line. All right, I'm gonna get that cut and we'll get going here. All right, I got a piece here cut 1.5 inches wide. The way that the old piece was, it was already 7 inches long, so I just left it at that. So what I'm thinking is we'll get this lined up a little high on the top. Just mark a bend here, and we'll go do that. Want it a little high, just to give us room for air. All right, I'm just going to throw that in the vise. We'll get a bend that looks roughly like that and match her up. All right, just got a real simple bend here. And yeah, something like that. We want a bit of gap here because we want to fill this in with weld so we can grind this perfectly flat. We'll cut to fit up here, and we'll do cut to fit down here and a cut and butt on that existing piece. We'll trim this off. This will happen when the quarter's off again, but when this is all done and welded up and ground down, it should look like all one piece original. What we will do right now is just get this tacked on so that we like where it is on the car, and then we'll finish all this dress up when the quarter's off. Get the welder set up and we'll get that going. All right, let's get this tacked in here. Just a little, just need a little bend right here, just a little to match this. Do I want to do this now or do it when it's off the car? That one's good right there. I think that's all I can do until I'm able to get the quarter off, do a cut and butt here and here to match that up. But I've got it nice and flush here, and I can't put a tack here because this needs to bend up to make this flush with that bend there. So I think we're going to have to call that as it is until the quarter skin comes off. Okay, next up, we want to make sure that we are happy back in here. We're going to do a test fit with the bumper. So we will vice grip or tack this on with the clamp because I want to check the bumper fitment. I want to get this line with the bumper, and I want to get that line with the bumper. What we have to keep in mind here is still that this panel is still overlapped with the original quarter, and so it's going to stick out. You can see it's binding a bit right here. And that's fine. We just got to keep it in mind when we do our test fit with the bumper. However, the cut and butt will come down along like this. And then what I want to be able to do here, when the quarter is off next time, is trim out this section here. That's going to be impossible to do a cut and butt against. So we want all of this cut out of the car, all of that area in there, all of that actually. And then that will come in, and we'll weld that in, grind it down, and this will all look solid and happy. This part here we'll do a cut and butt so that this piece here, the leftover piece, will pull out from the inside, but that won't work down here because of how it's bound up against the existing panel that's going to stay. So just got to remember that this is all going to get cut out when the panel's off. Okay, so I'm going to get some vice grips on this to hold this there, and then I'm going to get the bumper and we're going to do a test fit. All right, got the bumper on and square. Happy with that. Here's the fitment to the passenger side. That's perfect. And then you'll have to imagine a bit, but because this panel still has to get pushed back, it looks to me like we're a little narrow down here. We're about the same on the other side as the top, but it looks like the bottom's going to need a shim. Now it could be because you can see we had a little, well, I didn't, but somebody had a little ding here in the bumper that could be dented slightly. So I think we're going to be okay. I'm not going to worry about this. I think we're going to be fine with fitment when the new bumper gets on here. And if the new bumper fits the same way as this one does, we can put a shim on the lower bracket here to pull this out while this one gets drawn in. So I think we're fine. I'm not worried about this when you push this in and recognize that this still has to go in probably another 1/8 inch at least with the cut and butt. We've got the same overhang here that we do on the passenger side. Again, you have to remember the driver's side is going to tuck in further because we're overlapped here. You can see how it's binding. So that will give us the same spacing on the bumper to the quarter panel, lengthwise as much as widthwise. I think we're going to be good. So I'm not concerned. I think we're going to be okay. I just want to make sure that it wasn't going to be too far out of whack, that we would have to make modifications here to this lip to ensure we're going to be good. Without a brand new bumper here, which would be the ideal situation to fit a brand new bumper, or one that you know hasn't suffered some damage, but we're going to make do with what we got, and I think this is going to be just fine. Okay, next up, we've got to make sure that we can get this extension in here mocked up and we're happy with fitment before we get any further. All right, I've got a bolts that I will put through the bumper bracket so that stays in the location that we want it. You can see this side's got to come up a little here. So what I'm going to do is go underneath, and we're going to get this lip matched up here. I'm going to put a vice grip here, a vice grip here, and then we'll work this side to make sure we're happy. Okay, recall the lip of the extension should match up with the lip of the trunk pan. So let's start the front. There. Now, let's get the back. There, that's lined up. Okay, with those two vice grips in there, you can see we're pretty nice here. Pretty good here. It's down a little bit right here. So to me, this has to come up, the extension has to come up a little, which is going to put that lip off a little bit. And this is a little higher right here than the passenger side. You can see it's got a hump there. Remember we looked it up last episode when we were doing the passenger side. That's how the factory looked. This one's up just a little bit. So what we're going to do when we do weld this together is we'll get a tack here where we're happy with the rosette weld right underneath, and then we'll work our way back and we'll put some shape into this extension to better match the trunk floor pan. So just a little bit of something I'd like to do to get that a little nicer here, and at the same time we'll push, once we've got a rosette in this location, we'll push this down as well to get that a little closer to the passenger side and make that look a little better. But that's good there. Pretty happy with the front to back. That's fine here and here. Now let's check our lips. Okay, so we know this is going to have to come over to match the wheel well like that. Let's put that on right now. It'll be something like that. Okay, and we got pretty good fitment right here. Hopefully you can see right there, that's the lip of the extension. Happy with that. So we can just do this to secure that. See if we're happy. Maybe. There. Now, I think actually we're gonna just pull that down a little bit. There, that's better. Now our bottom lip lines up better like that. We'll have some trimming to do there. But there we go with our bottom lip matching up nice here. I'll show you that in a second. So we'll have some trimming to do here, but we can still get our rosette here, here, and here, and of course we'll get them there. So happy with how that checks out. Let me show you the bottom lip. All right, and the bottom lip here you can see just needs to come together. Not unlike the passenger side, the stamping has this angle down a little too much, so with the vice grips we'll draw these two together, but we've got good fitment all along here. On the back it's not quite the same, and that's because of the overlap with the button, the cut and button in the back. So I'm happy with that overall, though this is going to be a good fit. So got no issues with the fitment of the extension. No need to do anything different with the quarter. So when the quarter comes off, we'll go ahead and start our rosettes up here and get it welded up on the top lip so this extension's in the right location and ready to roll. Okay, nothing more we have to do with the quarter panel on the car. It needs to come off now, and we'll dress up this area down here. We've got 3 more holes to drill right there, and then we'll do our weld through primer on all the surfaces, make sure everything is good and prepped, and that quarter can go on for the last time. Before we pull that off, there's one last step I want to do on the car here, and that is to put that new seal on. Like the passenger side, the driver's side seal actually still is in great shape, but I want to get the new seal on and make sure we've got good fitment. Okay, got the new seal installed. Looks good. Happy with that. Nice quality seal. Now, let's see. Will it be like the passenger side and close as nice with no push? Oh yeah. That's beautiful. And down at the bottom. A little hard to tell because this new quarter panel is still sticking out a little bit much because we haven't done the cut and butt, but it's good and flush there. Really happy. Okay, so peace of mind that we know that the new seals and the fitment are going to be okay when this car is all finished with metalwork, bodywork, and paint. So excellent. All right, quarter panel's off, and I would like to go ahead and get the extension welded into the pan and to get these holes drilled for the rosettes of the wheelhouse. So we don't want to weld these yet because we need to get the pan set properly to the edge, bottom edge of the quarter skin. But along here, we can weld up and get ready and set. And it's easier to do now with the quarter skin off. So I want to get these holes all drilled for the rosette welds, and then we're going to go ahead and get that extension welded in. We'll do weld through primer over top too. All right, we've got our rosette holes all drilled out along the pan and weld through primer. Went ahead and did weld through primer all along the wheel well lip and underneath. So the car is prepped now for the extension as well as the quarter panel skin. Went ahead and carved up this. If you recall, we had to make sure that the new skin would fit properly in here and with our cut and butt. So that's all good. And I've got the the extension all dressed up as well with weld through primer. It's got the 3 rosette welds that are going to match up with this area of the floor pan. We're going to weld from the other side here because it's easier to get to and grind off later. But otherwise, this pan is ready. I said pan again. I meant the drop down extension. it's ready to go. So let's get set up and get that welded in. Okay, I've got two vice grips holding the front lip together. Happy with the fitment here, both up here and how level it is. So I want to get one rosette done right here, and then we're going to work our way back, making sure that we've got this fit just nice. Let's get that done. Okay, got those plug welds done on this side, on the back of that extension. And you can see that everything has come together really nicely there. Just a perfect matchup, and it does match the passenger side. If we take a look at how things come across here and compare to the passenger, good. And we're nice and level. That's a really nice fitment there. Happy with that. There we go. Okay, let's get this finished up here. And to start with, I'm gonna need to do a cut there. Okay, now we can get these shaped right. It's a little off there. We need to bend a little bit, get some tacks going. gas. Okay, just gonna weld this up, grind it to fit here, and we'll cut this off and yeah, dress it up. I'll pick you back up when that's done. There we go, welded up, ground down. Now that quarter panel is the way it should have been from Goodmark itself, but hey, there we go. Made up for that. This quarter panel now is ready to go. I just need to put weld through primer on and we're ready to put it on for the last time. So I'm going to go clean these bare metal surfaces with acetone, get some weld through primer on, and then we'll start to fit it up to the car. You guys might have been screaming at me, "You're not done yet, you forgot something," and I did. I had to drill our holes for the rosette welds along that seam and also along the bottom edge here where the drop down extension will get rosette welded on from underneath. So I did that, and then I just shot this all with weld through primer, so it will be good and protected as it sandwiches up against the other metal. So let this dry for a bit and then we'll get this quarter panel on. All right, quarter's going on for the last time. There we go. She's in place. See down here, everything's going to work out real nice. Remember, our cut and butt will just come right along down through here. We'll do one little slice right there. Those two panels will meet up. We'll weld her up. Yeah. I just put a bit of a weld through primer on there so I could just double check that body line. When it's down to bare metal, it's hard to see, but just double checking all the body lines. I want to make sure that as this thing gets tacked on here now with the cut and butt that we are good to go. And we are. So that's the next step. Let's start welding this thing on. All right, forgot to do something. Forgot to make the holes for the rosette welds here that will secure this to the rocker. So I've just gone ahead and drilled those out, and then I've used the mini belt sander just to get in here and clean off the epoxy primer that was on those areas where I'm going to have to weld to. Do not want epoxy primer behind that. It'll be very difficult to get a good weld. And I've used the belt sander as well to clean up any burrs on the back side of here. So I'm just going to now shoot that with weld through primer, and then we can carry on. Okay, we're going to start this cut and butt process on the top edge of the panel. And before we do anything, we're going to come along and put tacks every few inches to close up all these gaps here. We want the panel as tight, the new panel, as tight as we can to the original. So we'll take care of that first, and then we'll start. Okay, we're going to start in the middle of the panel and work out. Something important here is you don't want to put too much pressure on this this panel, both panels, when you're tacking this together. You don't want to create a cavity. Just light pressure. Okay, we're all tacked along the panel. Now it's time to start the cut and butt process. And how we do that is a 3/64 inch cutoff wheel. We're going to come in here on an angle, and we're going to cut 8 to 10 inches or so. You'll cut through right on the seam here and run that along. And that will create the gap we need, with the rest of the panel staying where it needs to stay. And in around 8 to 10 inches or so, you'll see the original panel and the new panel start to level off, and that's where you want to start to create now a weld, or put a weld and create now one finished panel with the butt weld. And we'll just start here, and we'll work our way this way, we'll work our way that way, until we've got this entire top ledge cut and tacked level along that entire surface. Okay, so a couple things happened there. First, I went a little farther than I normally would because I found that I was having to put too much pressure on this panel to get it to line up with the original. And you want to be careful because you don't want to create a divot here. It just creates problems later that you'll have to hammer and dolly out. And this section right here in this panel, you can't get to with hammer and dolly. You can a little bit here and back there, but in here you're stuck. So you got to be really careful you don't create a divot here. You saw that on the passenger side, I had a little bit of that in this area here. Anyhow, the second thing is I had a tack on here, but it let go. So I had to do it again. But I've got a real nice flush fit there that might be hard to see on camera, but right there at that weld, you can see how those panels are good and flush. And if I check that with you can see just how, hopefully you can see how perfect that is. It's exactly what you want to start off with, okay? You got to be careful with the heat in this entire process, but that's your first good level tack. Now we got to keep working the panel in both directions and get everything to look like that. Okay, hopefully you get an idea for the process I'm going through here. And now, it might be hard for you to see, but those panels are almost perfectly flush. That's just a reflection there. And important that you've got some gap. You don't want too much gap. This is about as much as you'd want. This is a little much right here. This is a little light there, so I may have to do something with that and there. But you got to have gap so that you can fill that with weld and then grind it flat. You got to get that penetration in there. Too much gap will cause the panels to shrink together and create problems for you. Too little gap and they'll draw together again and bind. You don't want that either. So it's a tricky process, especially when it's not a straight line. It's got a bit of curve to it. So it gets a bit tricky with the cutoff wheel, but you get the idea. I'm going to go through and finish off the top ledge here, and we'll come back then. Okay, working my way back through the panel, and I get to the back piece. I have to relieve this to get this to push, and it relieved too much. It went below the main panel here. And so just using a screwdriver to bring this new panel back out to the right level edge, just something that can happen when you're doing a cut and butt, especially contour surface like this. I could push it from behind, but this was just as easy. So just wanted to show that quick. Okay, as I make my way towards the back, I wanted to show you I had to make another little trim, both on the new panel here, just take a little bit off this, and I had to take the rest of this off in order for this to come in and sit flush. You'll see now I've just got to put a new gap in there so I can get good penetration on the butt weld. Otherwise now that panel's in there solid A little bit of hammer and dolly work right here just to tidy this up and make that nice. No big deal there. Okay, I've got the back all tacked in there and happy with how that's coming together. Now, as I look across the seam of the butt weld that we've done here, there are a few places where I've marked with an X, and that's locations, or those are locations where I don't think I have enough gap. This is a good one here that you can see where it's got very little to no gap. This has got no gap. In fact, you can see that it's, well, maybe you can't see, but it's binding right here. So this is no good. Got to create more separation here, ideally a 1/16 of an inch. So I've got to go back and clean this up before I get too much further in the process. Okay, time to tackle the front edge. I'm not going to address the door gap at this stage. I'm going to do the cut and butt. I will tack it, and we'll come back and do the gapping as a second pass later on. Okay, the cut and butt process is complete. I've taken out the excess metal that was cut off around the entire seam, so we're all good there. We'll come back on the seam there and do more stitching later on. For now, I'm going to start welding in the bottom side of this front quarter. Then I'll move to the back, and then we'll do the wheel well and the extension, all of that together. Get everything solid and welded up with rosettes, and then yeah, I'll come back to the seam here and continue to stitch that together. We'll leave this front door edge until we're ready to set our gap to the door. All right, moving on to the back. I think I've got everything clamped where I like it. You can see in here how that lines up quite nice. Happy with that. And I've got this position in the right way. This will get pushed in and welded solid like the other side. After we're done here, I'm happy with the distance that this is riding this way. And underneath, I'm good with where this wheel lip is. This part here from the extension does push in, so we'll deal with that once I get a tack up here. I'm going to go ahead and get these rosettes set in place, and we'll get a rosette in here as well to tack that all in. Double check everything, and then we'll start welding. You might remember this piece that we made back when we were putting the new trunk pan in. It's time to weld this in. I got it all prepped with weld through primer, rosette areas, good to go. All right, that's a lot of welding, but that's all secured back in the back corner here. We are good to go. Okay, now I'm going to finish things off with this wheel well. I'm going to get that done. I'm not going to record it. I'll pick you up when it's done. You've seen me do enough rosette welds. You get the idea. And all welded up, ready to be ground down, smoothed out. Let's go. All right, guys. Well, if you've been following the series, you know that now the process begins of tack, tack, tack every 6 to 10 inches, cool it off, come back, and repeat the process until I've got one continuous seam of weld along this butt weld. It's a very time-consuming process because you don't want to get too much heat in here and create a problem with warpage. So I'll do that off camera. And we also know that we have to come back and revisit this seam here because we want to make sure that we push out, pull in, and get this to a 3/16 inch gap all along the door seam. And aside from that, we've got a whole bunch of grinding to do to get all those rosettes ground down and looking nice. But outside of that, I'm really happy with how this quarter has come in. And we just got to finish off some of the details now. So quite happy. Hope you got something out of that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Throw a comment in if you think that there's something I could have done a little different, a little better. Let me know. Happy to hear from you. Until next time, cheers.